I'm Vanessa.
Hi, I'm Jenny.
And we are your hosts for
Healing Girl SZN.
So excited. Episode 2.
Yeah, welcome back to episode 2, guys.
We want to say a few things before we start. Some announcements, I guess you can say. In a couple episodes, we're going to start inviting special guests to come
speakers,
join us.
Yes.
I think it'll be such a fun thing because bringing people together.
Yeah, we definitely want to, bring a diverse group onto our podcast to hear their experience. So we definitely will have LGBTQ plus community on our podcast, especially people of color, as well, and artists, creatives. So yeah, definitely looking forward to that.
Yeah, and if you're seeing the video version of this podcast, we have one microphone. We originally had 2, but they're not working right now. One of them. So
we're not good at technology, sorry.
Yeah, we're gonna ask our friends to help us.
That's why we're both in art. So
yeah.
There's a reason for that. Yep.
But yeah, so to start our second episode on overthinking and anxiety. I feel like we can make so many parts of this because many people deal with this on a daily basis,
Totally.
And I also feel like we want to share how we kind of go cope with it.
Yeah.
And how we kind of work with it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, overcome that anxiety.
So, overthinking, anxiety.
I know.
Don't like her.
We don't. But I also feel like those type of emotions are necessary sometimes because as much as our body hate it, it's also showing you something that you need to work on, right? It's like a signal that your body is responding to your emotions, and it's telling you, hey, this is not okay. You need to focus on it and find a way to cope with it. For example, fear. When you get out of that fear zone, you would feel more confident, right? So I feel like it's all about going back to that safe space within yourself. Do you have a example that you can give us? When's the last time that you feel anxious, Vanessa?
As a kid, I was a very anxious kid. I know I'm still anxious now sometimes, okay?
Yeah.
But, I remember taking therapy and they gave me some really good insight on how to, cope with it and how to get through it.
Yeah.
My therapist actually, one time he told me, imagine that you're the observer of your thoughts, He was saying imagine you're laying down. He told me to take a deep breath in, deep breath out, lay down. He's imagine the clouds are bunch of thoughts passing you by, but you just let it pass by. That's what he would tell me. And I don't know why, it just made me I started doing that exercise where I just pretended okay, because we have the brain is such a powerful thing. We have so many thoughts, 50,000 thoughts a day, and it's crazy. And so that's why it's how do I say this?
Because of the fact that we produce so many thoughts per day, they're not gonna all be positive. And I feel like we need to not necessarily normalize, but we need to feel okay with feeling all of these emotions, right? I think, I feel like it's really good that you have that self-awareness within yourself to find a way to cope with it. I actually used your method too.
Really?
Because I remember you told me that.
Right.
You actually passed down that method to me. So I actually give that advice to my friends too whenever they are seeking for that advice. So yeah, it definitely works.
Yeah, and also another thing is you don't want thoughts. You don't want them to define
consume.
Who you consume, define you, And but the thing is, our brain makes us so it's so persuasive, it's so convincing. If, for instance, if you think, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not pretty enough, your brain will literally find details. We'll like sift out all the information that's actually happening. But like we'll like make you focus on that detail. Like, oh, I'm not good enough. But like that's completely not true. Like we are all worthy of love. We're all worthy of, you know, good things happening to us.
That's totally true. And I also feel like whenever that you are constantly thinking about negative thoughts, it really brings you down to a very low vibrational energy. And when you're vibrating in such a low energy, unfortunately your heart is not going to be open to whoever that tries to come in, right?
Exactly,
so it's you're not really sitting in a very receptive like state, I guess, as you can call it. And I feel like for me, the way that I perceive like, you know, overthinking and anxiety, I think of it as there's no light without the darkness. So whenever you find yourself, you know, like feeling so anxious or horrible about yourself, just remember that those feelings, like you said, they're like clouds. They're going to pass away, and you are going to eventually move past through that darkness and find the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, as cheesy as it sounds, it's true.
Yeah.
You know?
I also used to have a lot of like intrusive thoughts.
What kind of stuff?
Like sometimes it's just like the most unnecessary things. Like I'll just be like, oh, what if I did this? I'll be in public, what if I did that? And it's like, you know, not socially accepted, you know, don't do that. But it's like sometimes it's just your brain's just going crazy, just wandering. Yeah. And it's just like, hey, we're gonna start doing this, and then you're like, excuse me, and then the brain's like, we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
But I feel like at the end of the day, it's like, don't give power to those negative thoughts. You know what I mean? Once you give power to those thoughts, like it kind of, in a way, like your brain will start thinking it's true, even though it's not true. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Like for instance, if I said, oh, let's say I like went out and I saw like my friend, I bumped into her, and like she's just feeling like, I say hi, and usually she's like her bubbly self, she's like hey, and then, you know, I could tell like her energy was off, and then let's say that person left, and I'm like thinking in my head, oh my gosh, do they hate me? Like why were they like, they're usually so social and bubbly, like, and then, you know, you start like feeding on to those thoughts, like, oh my gosh, like she probably didn't want to be my friend, or this is why she's not replying to my text, or this is why he's not replying to my text. But then like this situation actually happened to me, but in reality, when I like actually got to meet that person again and talked about it, they're like, oh, I was actually just like going through a rough time, you know, I wasn't like my actual self. And then I was like, this is, oh my gosh, like I was literally overthinking for the longest time, because I was like, oh my gosh, she does not like me, she is like not replying to my texts. Like, you know what, our brains just work like that.
So how did you like eventually get out of that overthinking situation?
Yeah, there's like a lot of like ways that people,
like for that specific like example, like do you remember what you...
I kind of like detach myself from, like my mind, I don't know if this will make sense to people, but like my mind to like what actually happened. So for instance, like what actually happened was I saw her, met up with her, talked to her. She did not seem like she was in like the mood. But then like in my mind I was like making all these stories, like, oh, is she this
scenarios,
and that? Scenarios. And then I learned to separate those two things, like those two thoughts, and realize, okay, you know, like how she's feeling is not like
towards
you.
Not
towards me. It's not towards me. It's like how they're feeling. Like it's a reflection, you know,
of themselves.
So I guess like that time she was just not feeling her best. So that's okay. Yeah. You know, that's why she's like, you know, a little bit low energy. But you know, like I said, I really was like, oh my gosh.
No, I totally understand. And for me, I'll give another example that's quite similar but different. Like, I had this period of my life that I was obsessed with this person. Not gonna give too much details. I know, like, it's crazy that I could be obsessed with someone. Like, they should be obsessed with me.
Other way around.
Anyways. And then it wasn't even like a relationship or whatever. It's just because I had a really low self-worth during that time. And I was just so into that person, whatever action that they do, like, they would affect my whole mood for the day. And it's just crazy. Like, now that I look back, I just feel like, God, like, Jenny, why did you let that person take control of your whole body? Yeah. You know, your emotions, your physical body, your spirituality. Like, what? Like, I honestly, like, I appreciate that experience because it really taught me, like, who I want to be. But yeah, like, I was so anxious whenever they wouldn't text me back. Like, even when I was around them, like, I got butterflies, but I also feel like it was more like an anxious feeling when I was around them. Like, I feel like I couldn't be myself. Like, whenever I did something, I was like, oh my God, like, would he, like me if I did that? You know, like, I tried to, like, overgive, like, buy him stuff and stuff like that. But, like, at the end of the day, it left me feeling so drained and empty, you know? So, honestly, never let another person to take control of your own power. I feel like whenever you're feeling anxious, it's, especially if it's out of your control, most of the time, anxiety, it's out of your control, right? You're anxious about, like, an external situation or an external person, so do not ever let them take control of your power. I feel like what we should practice is to say, like, affirmations to call back our power.
Calling back, yeah.
Yeah, like, what I usually do, like, depends on the situation, is I would put on, like, healing sound. I actually would listen to Janae Aiko.
I love that girl.
Yeah, last time that I had my driving test that I failed.
Oh no.
Remember?
Yeah.
Before that test, I was actually, like, having this song by Janae Aiko on repeat. Because it just makes me feel so calm and, like, grounded. And, yeah, like, I feel like what you consume, especially musically, it would really affect your state of mind. That's why I would definitely recommend people to do that. Affirmations and healing music.
And I actually want to talk about how you were saying, like, calling back your power. That is, like, that's so iconic.
Yeah.
You gotta put that
put that out there.
Yeah, because it's so true, you know? We give our power to things that are not good for us.
Yeah.
And, for instance, like, it's, like, negative thoughts, you know? Once you have that, you see that negative thought, you're like, oh my gosh. And you start, like, adding and building it up. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, you don't want to give... Like, your energy is so precious. It's sacred.
So sacred, yeah.
You do not want to give your energy to people that don't deserve it. Things, things, people, situations, because, like I said, we gotta protect our energy, gotta protect ourselves from these bad guys out here.
I know. Yeah. What are some ways that you cope with anxiety?
So, for me, let's say I'm thinking about, like, let's say there's a negative thought. I try to think 2 positive thoughts after that. So if a negative thought comes, I'll think, like, 2 more. So then I'll keep, like, going up and up, like, bringing my my energy level up.
Yeah, that's actually such a good point, because the book that I'm reading, God, what is that cover? Can you see?
What? Which one?
Oh, Ask and It's Given. The book that I'm reading, Ask and It's Given, there's this paragraph that I remember reading about showing gratitude and staying present and grounded. So basically what they said is similar to what you're saying. Whenever you're feeling down and out of place, or feeling like your mind is wandering around and not feeling present, look around you and find, like, 2 objects that you can feel, like, grateful towards too. For example, I'm sitting on this couch and I can say, oh my God, thank you, couch, you provided me comfort. Like, I'm able to sit here and lay on you. So it's kind of bringing me back to the reality and the fact that I'm being here, sitting here. Or I could say there's water, like, thank you, water.
Yeah.
Thank you, water, you nourish me, like, you know, like, you make me feel healthy. So I feel like that's such a good point.
Yeah, kind of like finding, like, the silver lining in, like, you know, sometimes with, like, negative situations.
Yeah. Like shift your perspective.
Yeah, and being in the state of gratitude and thankfulness is such a high vibration to be at. That's honestly when you'll attract the most beautiful opportunities and things in your life, is when you're completely grateful for everything you have right now, honestly. And that's actually how I managed to, get through my anxiety, is because I just was, well, there's a lot of ways, but one of them was just being thankful. Like, you know what, even though I have this habit, it is okay, because there's good things around me that I'm grateful for, even though it's hard to, sometimes there are days where it's hard to kind of see what it is, but then just take a deep breath. You're like, okay, it all makes sense. Like, I'm grateful that I have friends, I have family, I have good people around me.
We have a house.
Oh my gosh, there's so many people who don't even have a home, who don't even have food on their table. So I'm like, to be honest, it's like we are rich. So yeah, I'm really grateful about that.
That's true.
Let's see,
what do you, I feel like this is going to be something that's going to turn into another longer conversation, but I also feel like it has something to do with anxiety. The cost of living here, like in Vancouver. I feel like a lot of people,
cities like New York, LA.
I feel like a lot of people, including me, are kind of in the survival mode, that we're constantly working, overworking ourselves even, so that we can pay our rent. Because it's hella expensive, guys. Like, I'm not even kidding. Do you feel like that would also affect, anxiety, overthinking, constantly stressed about, oh my god, what if I'm gonna lose my job, I can't pay my rent, what's your thought on that?
Oh, of course, definitely 100%. We need, in this system, we have to make money, we have to make money to survive. Unfortunately, it's not like the old days where they just traded the trading.
Oh yeah, I know.
I'll give you my sheep for I don't know,
some bread.
Some bread.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like we have to work things through. But I think a really important thing is to just be present in the moment, and knowing that these kind of situations you really cannot control. You know what I mean? And just trusting the process. That's really all I could really say, because I know it's so expensive living here in Vancouver, and inflation, all this crazy stuff happening, and people are like, oh, how can I make more money, or how can I bring money into my life, or all these things. And like I said, we go back to that overthinking, but at the end of the day, it's you gotta, there's a lot of things we really can't control, and we just gotta stay present and just pray. If you're religious, if you believe in God, or people say universe, you just pray and just hope that just live your day
day by day,
take
it slow, It's going to be a process, whatever industry that you're working in, right? And you are going to unfortunately encounter roadblocks along the way, but it's not end of the world type of situation. It's something that you can overcome, right? Whenever we encounter them, it's just the universe sending you a sign to tell you that, hey, you need to be courageous and you need to stay in the present and get through this. That's all it is, right?
Yeah.
And sometimes our mind create that kind of roadblocks, and like you said, we just have to push it through and be present.
Yeah, I always tell myself that's future Vanessa's problem. It actually helps me so much. I don't know if it will help you guys, but whenever I would go through a situation where it's really difficult, I'm like, okay, but that's future Vanessa's problem. I'm gonna live right now. I cannot, for instance, if I need to do something, that's the thing. I noticed that when I kept overthinking, worrying, it's kind of I'm reliving that over and over again. It hasn't even happened yet. So for example, if let's say I'm thinking about a past, something in my past, I'm thinking, it's I'm replaying it in my head over and over again. So it's just honestly, I mean, like we're just saying based on how we feel, but like every person's situation is different, and you know, we're sending love and energy to whoever is going through a hard or rough time. We're honestly just sharing what we kind of go through, but it's crazy thinking about these things, you know, and worrying about these things, but like it's not really, it's something that we can't really control.
Yeah. But we do have the capability to overcome it. Yeah,
overcome it, you know, by being, like, many ways, by being grateful for what you have right now.
Yeah.
Like, if we speak, like, energetically, like, you know, being grateful and having an open heart, like, just being able to receive. I think it's a beautiful thing, And
I know for me, personally, whenever I am feeling anxious, I like to sort it out by my own. Like, I know other people has their own ways. For example, my friend, whenever she's feeling anxious, she feel like she needs to talk to other people so that she can get that feelings out there, so that she can feel a little bit better. But personally for me, and that doesn't apply to everyone, I like to detach from the world a little bit so I can be more aware of the thoughts that's going on in my head. And I could like analyze and reflect, like, why am I feeling this way? And is it really about, like, for example, if that's about another party that's involved in the situation, I would think like, oh, is it really about me? Or is it just because of them, right? Like you said, is it like a reflection of themselves, or is it more towards me? So I tend to like reflect a lot, and I go back to the situation with like a calmer mind, if that makes sense. And I talk it through. I feel like sometimes that's like better, but obviously everybody has their own ways.
Some people, you know, go through it differently, but I'm actually the same thing too. When I'm going through like a rough period of my time, I kind of want to, you know, be away from everybody, kind of in her isolate to just kind of get my energy back up again. And like, I feel it can sometimes be lonely too, but sometimes we gotta feel that lonely feeling, and then joy will come after, you know. You gotta believe that, and just have like faith, believing that everything's gonna work out.
No, that's true. Yeah. And I also want to talk about different type of attachment style.
Yeah, right.
Because I feel like in relationships, at least for me, I used to have this anxious attachment style.
I'm gonna still have it, girl. I have it. I have it. Just kidding.
And
we're working on it.
I know. I'm currently still working on it. And I mean, all the girls out there, we really sympathize with you, because I know like how hard it is. And I feel like for me, at least, it really like rooted from my childhood. It's from what I've witnessed in my parents' relationship, and also how I was brought up as a child living in China. I feel like because of my family tradition, they were so like harsh on me, like the harsh love. I tend to like be so critical about myself. Like, I judge myself a lot. I overthink a lot about whatever that I do. Like, I don't want to say that I'm a perfectionist, but I just always tend to seek for that validation, because I feel like especially my dad has never provided me any, at least vocally. I've never received that either encouragement or validation from him. Like, never once in my life he said, I'm proud of you, or I love you. Like, never. So as I was growing up, I gravitate towards men that present those same behaviors. Like, they're either like emotionally detached, or they're very like negative, if that makes sense. Like, they would never like compliment me. They would never like be vulnerable, like share their feelings with me. So I feel like that's why I had that anxious attachment. It's because of, you know, my upbringing.
Yeah, you know, honestly, I've met Jenny maybe three years ago, and I've seen so much growth and so much change in her.
Aww.
And you know what? It's because like she's always talking about, you know, I'm gonna work on myself. And like the next partner I'm gonna have, they're gonna keep up. They're gonna have to keep up with me.
They're gonna have to.
Yeah, and honestly, like at the end of the day, it's like anxious attachment. Oh shit. Sorry, that was my alarm.
Yeah.
But yeah, like anxious attachment. I think there's like also secure attachment and avoidant attachment.
Avoidant attachment.
I feel like I'm definitely anxious attachment. I always like, oh, what am I gonna do? Why isn't this person like texting me back in time? They don't love me anymore. Like and then I'll just like, you know how some people they're like anxious, but then they're like, okay, I'll detach and they'll like run away. But I'm like that person. I'll be like, oh my gosh, like
you're going crazy.
Yeah, I go crazy and I start making these scenarios in my mind.
Yeah.
But I remember like reminding myself, you know, the right people are gonna stay in your life no matter what.
That's true. Yeah.
Like the right people will not pass by you. That's like a quote that I remember. It was like by Leora Alexandra. She said that.
Okay.
But yeah, just basically knowing that at the end of the day, like, you know, if that person is not in your life anymore, if they just left, that they're just not meant for you.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like relationships. I was seeing this video, but they say like relationships is kind of like friends. Where it's like, imagine like being friends with someone and they're like not texting you, like they're kind of like, you know, not getting you like the, not being supportive effort, you know. It's like, why would you want that as a friend?
I know, that's true. So
it's like, why? And like you think about it, like relationships, connection, those are, it's like very strong, it's intimate, you know.
Yeah.
It's like, why would you want to be with someone that doesn't even give you the time,
doesn't
give you the time you deserve, doesn't give you affirmations, and, you know, not respect you? Like, come on, we're better than that.
Yeah, it's all going back to like knowing yourself, right? Loving yourself and aligning yourself with the people that shares the same value with you, so that you don't have to constantly think about, oh my god, he's not doing this, he's not doing that, because that wouldn't happen if you actually know yourself, you know. Yeah,
that's very true.
And I also feel like with like anxious attachment specifically, it's all about reprogramming our subconscious mind, because our subconscious mind is where all those thoughts are coming from. No. Yeah. So it's all about reprogramming that, and that's hella hard, guys. Like.
Yeah, it's gonna. But that's why it's a journey. You know, this is life, and we're learning all these beautiful things.
Yeah.
And also just...
We're learning, also unlearning all the traits that are not good for
Jenny.
us.
You go, girl. There's so much to say, but we gotta cut this a little short.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much for listening to our second episode. We're so happy that you guys are here listening to us babble.
Honestly, like, you guys have no idea how appreciative we are for every single one of you, even though like we don't know you guys personally yet.
I mean, some people we do know.
Yeah, but we are just so overwhelmed with like all the love and support and all the emails.
So cute.
Yeah. Anyways, we'll see you guys in the next episode.
Bye.